Once upon a time, two boys grew up playing hockey in the village of Terrace, British Columbia. One of them went on to play in the National Hockey League. The other became a comedian. Now, one flies planes and coaches youth hockey. The other is still a comedian and owns newsstands. This is their podcast, Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian.
Hello, Jeff. Welcome to the most popular podcast in the world, hosted by a guy named Ian and Jeff. How are you today?
I'm good today. You're
Nice.
coming, yeah, that's the end of it. You're coming at us from the Great White North, right?
I'm coming from a little town called Terrace, British Columbia. You fly into the Terrace Kitimat Stikine Airport, and you have a good, you have a good time. Oh man, the most empty plane I've ever had coming up.
What?
Yeah, it wasn't packed. It wasn't packed, but I still had a guy beside me. There's an empty row behind me, but he still sat beside me. So I was just
That's
like,
awesome.
okay, but it was and smooth. I was terrified because it was the most smooth flight I've ever had to Terrace. So smooth.
Well, for people who don't know, right? It's a turboprop Mighty Q400. What's it,
hmm
76 or 78 seats? And normally 74 to 75 of those seats are dudes, right? Guys going up to work in the camp. So,
Just going in or just coming out of camp. So
yeah,
either they're drunk, excited to go to make money, or drunk because they're happy to get out.
you learn some new words every time. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know what's crazy? What?
Mostly you learn what they're going to buy with their money. Have I ever told you that there was a guy beside me looking at jet skis one time? I'm going to get this one as soon as we get home. I'm like, oh God.
You know
Uh,
what people might not realize is that so we grew up on the west coast of British Columbia, west coast of Canada. There's all kinds of workers coming in from the Maritimes, Nova
well,
Scotia, PEI, like Prince Edward Island. It's crazy that people commute across the country to go into the camp. What do you think they go in for? Probably minimum 14, probably 28 days, and
I
then they
think they
go
go.
back home.
I think they go in, two off. But it's not just so. Here's the interesting part. There's a gold mine just outside of Terrace up that they've been running pretty hard, bringing these guys in, flying them in from Toronto. So they fly in from Toronto for this. There's also Alcan now flies workers back and forth, two in, two out. But and I know this is a hockey podcast. Liquid natural gas, the LNG plant. They just built a plant up there. The Canadian government and the Japanese government got together and they built this plant. But apparently, they're doing a phase two, and it'll be the biggest infrastructure move in Canadian history. Like it's going to be huge, and gas will be getting shipped all over the world. I've been sending gas all over the world for a long time, but apparently it's just going to be workers. And I think the guy told me there's 2,000 guys in camp at a time. It's something ridiculous. So
Yeah, they had to keep a lid on that, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
what he said. This guy I was talking to, he worked on that, but he got poached by Alcan. And he goes, Alcan puts me in a hotel and I go in for 2 weeks on. And he said, in those camp, it's just basically a prison. You got to check here, check there. There's things being stolen all the time, fights because it's all dudes. Oh, I was laughing.
Yeah, yeah. So camp work, but you did camp work, but we
Yeah.
cannot talk about your camp work today because there's a guy that we have on periodically. You might have heard of him,
What's his name?
Darren Millard. Darren Millard.
Ooh, the old ducker.
Yeah. So yeah, Duxie, right? The old
That's
Mallard,
it.
Duxie. And I was telling him the other day, he came out. And by the way, he's told me he feels the best he's felt since getting hit on his bike for the second time
Uh,
in forever.
third time's a
Yeah,
charm.
so third time we don't want to be having a picture of him up in the corner.
Yeah.
So I think we can get him on next week, but we're gonna kind of we got to chum the water here a little bit with this one. I started telling about your mining stories, and he lost his marbles. He's like, I didn't know Lord Bag worked in a mine. So once we
Lord
get,
Bag. Lord
uh,
Bag is he these hands weren't always smooth. I love
yeah,
it.
I
Hey,
I
so
think that's a
I
great
got
story. But
I
anyways, for
also
another
forgot to
day.
tell I forgot to tell you. So, I do Seattle, and I've been having people come out from Seattle. So I've been having Alaska Airlines pilots show up and I had a guy show up the other night. He goes, I was flying in, and I checked your website. He's in. I can't believe it's in Indiana. I'm gonna go see him. I'm direct from Seattle. The timing, it just worked out. And he was telling me he flew the plane with the door that flew off the leg before the door came off.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
I was-
Did he tell you he went right down and bought a bunch of Powerball and Mega Millions? Like that's what you got to do when you're like, I think I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket, and I know, I
He
know.
said he did. He said he didn't sleep well that night.
No, yeah, it's just it's crazy, but that's interesting. Like I knew people
And I
that
brought you
flew
up,
it,
yeah.
but I didn't know that. But now you're digging
The,
into the Alaska, you're digging into the airline community, and they're now starting to support you. So
they're
that's pretty
showing up.
impressive.
They'll kick me off their planes as I'm trying to get to a gig. A lot of fun. And by the way, speaking of airline gigs in Alaska, do you guys still do a direct flight from Los Angeles to Kelowna?
No, would they bounce through Seattle? But you know who does a direct flight to Kelowna from Vegas is WestJet, and so you could come Monday and Friday for those people who want to know a lot about hockey, but more importantly, airline schedules. WestJet Monday and Friday Vegas to Kelowna, and it's like we haven't caught up in a while because we've been all over the place. It seems like we've been all over the place since like Thanksgiving
We have
or
been all over the
before.
place.
But
And this is the other thing we do. We promise we'll have a guest next week.
I was talking when I started talking about Mallard. I was like, I think I threw Leah Lum out there like 2 weeks ago. Leah, we got to get Leah on. We got our crack staff on it. But our staff is busy doing their
Our but
normal
our
jobs
staff is
too.
but our staff is on crack.
So so yeah, we got to get Leah Lum on. That's big. And then Mallard's always good to have on. He does a
Mallard's
radio
awesome.
show here from 4:30 to or 4:30 to 6, I think, in the afternoon. So I was listening to it on the way down to the game last night, the big game, Edmonton and Vegas.
You went to
So
game?
yeah, so I
You
went to the
went
game
you
last
went
night.
to game?
I went to game, yeah, one game. So I went down last night. Um, there hasn't been a game in Vegas for a while against the Edmonton Oilers, who did not lose a game,
No.
won every game they
Oh,
played in January. It's pretty
oh,
impressive, eh?
that is
Like when you think
impressive.
about it. So I will say this for the Edmonton fans out there, and I know there's many of them. Um, my nephew Tiber being the top one. Edmonton looks like a different team this time around, and the main reason is Knobloch, the new coach. He's playing everybody, and they who really stuck out to me last night was some of their depth guys. This young kid named Holloway and another
Hmm.
young fella named McLeod, and those two guys can fly. And they played them with Corey Perry. So I didn't look at the box score,
Hold
see
on.
how
Is that
much.
was that Corey Perry's first game?
Second
Oh, I
game.
was going to say if it was his first game and they lost, it's that's trouble.
No, yeah, he was 1-0. Now he's 500 with them. But um, no, they look good. Edmonton looked really good, really tight game, and fast, like
Yeah.
really, really fast. Edmonton's got it. I always thought Toronto was one of the fastest teams in the league, but I really think Edmonton has got to be the fastest team I've seen in the NHL. And of course, the two superstars, Draisaitl and McDavid, they had a 2-0 breakaway early in the game from outside the Vegas blue line on a shorthanded. They were killing a penalty. Of course, we look at each other and their seats were like, well, those are probably the two guys in the world you don't want to
Right.
give the puck to, right? So the two best players in the world go in. It's 1-0 Edmonton, but Vegas prevailed, and just a great game. So
Who'd you go to
with
the game
Van,
with?
I went with Mr. Morton, Randy, and
Nice.
Husky, our old friend Husky.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was
You
good.
guys are you probably no shirts and painted faces.
Yes, yes. Las Vegas Thunder colors.
Yeah, you guys, that'd be awesome. You guys
Yeah.
just
So it was.
hammered and tarps off.
Oh, Rod. One year, he dressed. They dressed up for Halloween as the Village People. So Rod came as the guy dressed with no shirt and like he cut his shorts off and stuff. So
Oh, that's so
he's
great.
not opposed to going out in public
He's not
with very little gear on. So
he's not afraid. Let's put that way. Uh,
no.
who rang the buzzer? Like the what is
Oh,
it?
you know what? Pat McAfee was there last night
Love him,
with
love him,
with
love
yeah.
Pat McAfee.
You know what? Him and one of the guys that hosts the show with him is a huge Golden Knights fan. And Pat, he's really got a cool kind of, he's in a cool orbit because he's got enough people that love him that just
Hmm.
like, oh, we love Pat McAfee, but he's got enough people that don't, that kind of create that, it
Yeah,
can't be a love fest, right?
it's the
So
way it's
McAfee
got to
was there
go.
last night. Yeah. And kind of like a young Lord Bag, same thing. Um, but Pat McAfee's,
Everybody
I don't
loves me.
know. Yeah. Guy was a punter in the NFL and now he's awesome. Like
I
so he was there last night and the place was rocking.
So my Pat McAfee story is I was on a show called Bob and Tom at Indianapolis, and they said Pat McAfee's coming in, and this guy that I've never heard of comes in, and he's just retired as a punter. Now he's going to try stand up. So we talk a little bit, and he had me dying on the radio show. He was so funny. He just talked about him and his old man, Peyton Manning invited his family over for some weekend thing, and the whole crew of the Manning family's there, and then his dad and mom are there, and they come in and they offer him a beer and they offer him a Bud Light or something like that, and McAfee's old man's all fired up. I come over to Peyton Manning's house and I get a Bud Light. That's all he talked about the whole time. Archie gives me a Bud Light. Can't believe the Archie. That's all. But just a fun guy, really nice. And the other thing that I know about McAfee is he supports his friends and helped a lot of his friends get gigs too. So he's a good
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. And
Love him
you know
or
what?
love him or hate him, who cares? He helps the
Well,
people
but
out
you
and
know
he's
what
just
he
fun.
does? What he does really well is he goes in there and he can poke the bear. But if he goes
Hmm.
down a street and he don't like what he's seeing, he just turns around, goes back out, and goes down another street that works for him. Like,
Yeah.
and one of the cool things about him, you don't hear people in the sports world, like as far as athletes, you don't hear them taking him on very often. Like,
No.
like you'll get some guys that be like, um, you'll get a little bit of pushback from, a sports team or an individual. Most of the time, most of his criticism seems to be coming from outside of that area. And
Hmm.
he does a really good job of helping it just he kind of pushes that needle a little bit further. So, I
He's
mean,
great.
obviously ESPN saw something in him that, they're trying to use and yeah, pretty cool. So that got everything started here last night. Another guy that said he'd come on the show. Here we are name dropping again, and it's just you and me. But Mark Chinook, Mark
Uh-huh.
was there last night, hosting again, and
Shinny.
so yeah, so he got it all riled up. It was great. And one of the cool things too is we had a ton of people from Edmonton down last night with their orange jerseys. And so WestJet must have added a few more flights from Edmonton. There's a lot of Oiler fans last night. They came to get out of the weather and came down here, and it's been raining for 3 days, but hopefully they stuck around today. At least it's
Yeah,
nice
yeah,
today.
they were fine because there's still rain. It's been nice up here. It's weird when it's nice up here, it's bad in California. That's what I've noticed. And the other thing, the reason we brought up Kelowna is May 28th, I'll be going to Kelowna. Just to let you know, one night only. Get your tickets going on sale
Oh, hey,
next
well,
week.
but you know what? You're getting the horse in, or the cart in front of the horse, right? You're coming to Vegas May 1st and 2nd, and Mallard
May,
wants to
no,
go. So I'm
March,
telling you,
March, March
I
1st
said,
and
sorry,
2nd.
March 1st and 2nd. Hey, when are you in Portland while we're plugging your dates?
I'm in Portland the second week of March.
Okay.
So yeah. I don't even
Okay.
know my dates. Yeah. Go to
Yeah, yeah.
ianbag.com. Go to ianbag.com and check what dates I'll be there. Oh, it's gonna be big. Listen to this. I'm getting my first Canadian tour. Kelowna, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. Is there any other provinces? I don't think so.
You know what? I was wondering who drew that out for you. Like, you got to kind of backtrack a little bit there. Eh? You couldn't start in
Yeah,
Edmonton or Calgary and come west.
we're doing the circle.
Yeah, that's what we do. It's like a merry-go-round, right?
Yeah, it's a traffic circle. You give way to the left.
That's
So it'll
right.
be
You
fun.
just okay. So let's move on. Let's talk
Let's move
about
on. So
what
you
do you
talked.
want?
So the
Did you
game. Let's finish the
want
game.
to talk about the game? Okay.
The game was you think those two meet up again in the playoffs?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know right now. Like it doesn't look like Vancouver's going to get caught. Hey, I'll tell you this: if Edmonton keeps playing the way they're playing, like that, what I saw last night, they're not going to lose too many games on the way to the house.
Right.
So they maybe could catch Vancouver, Vegas. I'm not sure how first, second, and third rolls out in the Pacific, but if you were looking at it right now, you'd say Vancouver looks like, unless they have some kind of skid,
A
they've built a
disaster.
really nice cushion for themselves, that they go first, and then Edmonton or Vegas is second, third. But um, that's a different Edmonton team. But you got to tip your hat to Vegas. Hill played really well, and then Vegas did what they had to do after that early gaff where they had the giveaway. And you know, McDavid and Draisaitl usually have like a goal and an assist each within the first 5 or 6 minutes when they play at T-Mobile. Last night they had a goal and the other guy had an assist, but that was it. They shut the water off. But Edmonton, look out for Edmonton. They are going to be a handful the rest of the season. And again, just like the other teams and these other contenders, is how healthy are
Do
they
you
going to
think
be?
Edmonton makes any trades before
Yes, I
the
do. I
what
think
what do you think they add?
I think they try and add a defenseman. That's and like last night,
Who
Hyman
around
is. Yep. Sorry.
who around the league do you think?
Well, there's been talk about a kid named Carrier in Nashville. They obviously, if they want to package
But
somebody,
is Nashville selling at this point?
well, I think if the price is right, I don't. I think Barry Trotz has been very clear. I don't know of a team that's done much more. If you go back to the end of last year, moving guys in and out, buying guys out, changing what they're all about in Nashville, then Nashville, right? So I
Mhm.
think I think
He's trying to change the attitude there.
yeah, and I will say this, and I talked about this last week. Their farm team, the Milwaukee Admirals, look out.
Fire.
Ah, man, I was like, I went down last weekend, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes. So last weekend, I went and watched Iowa, the Wilds farm team, and the Silver Knights, Vegas's farm team.
Did you watch, or what else did you do?
Yeah, I did watch, but I'm going to tell you something right now. Nashville's farm team in Milwaukee is the best American League team that I've seen in a long, long time. And you and I went and we've watched Ontario when they've been rolling, and we watched
I didn't.
Abbotsford.
You and
You
Michael
know,
went, but yeah, you and Michael went and seen. Yeah,
yeah, but I
yeah.
guess I'm going back like Ontario, like
You're going
they've
back
been good.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
But
Coachella is Seattle. So we're talking in circles here, but I could see Nashville. Everything's on the table except maybe a couple guys like O'Reilly, Shen,
hmm
Forsberg. There's a couple other guys mixed in there that are Yossi that are probably totally off the board, but everybody else, um, they're in play, and they've got a bunch of first rounders in Milwaukee. These guys are big and fast, and I really like which way Nashville's headed. It's going to be exciting to watch them. I don't know if it'll happen this year because there's one spot I think in the Western Conference that's the eighth spot, the wild card. Um,
hmm
I think LA gets the seventh one, and then
Well,
we'll see if Nashville.
we're gonna go to LA in a second, but tell everybody why you know so much about the AHL. Tell everybody why, because you got to have a lot
Because
of information when you do what.
yeah, when you have a microphone in your hand, but you don't really have a lot of information. You just take people down.
Yeah, I'm just a douche. It's completely different.
Oh, oh
You
hang,
color.
hang on a second. We
He's
got we
getting.
got to we got to pause it for 1 second here. I gotta check something out. There's
Okay.
someone at the door. Okay, just stop. I don't know what I don't know.
We took a little break because Jeff had to pick up a case of wine from the door. I love it. Dalton,
I'm
I'm
thrilled. Look at that. This is the first time I've actually been home when anything that I just needed a signature in a long time. So I'm pretty happy about that. And I guess this is a good time to tell Chris Meyer his wine's in town.
the best part about it was an adult signature required. I'm like, oh my God, he must be looking young this morning on that.
I know, yeah, exactly. And you know what? So
hello, young man. Hello, young man. Are your parents home?
Exactly. I got asked that years ago in Vancouver. Guy knocked on the door and he said, "Hey, is your mom and dad home?" I go, "No, but my wife is."
That's funny.
Yeah. It's like, "Is your mom and dad home?" "No, my wife's here. Would you like to talk to her?" He's like,
Yeah.
Like, we're probably not buying anything from you today after that. But it was Watkins. I think it was Watkins. They sell some soap and lotion and you know what I mean. So
yeah,
nice kid. But
the old nice kid, but very clean skin. Anyways, so Jeff was doing color commentary on the Silver Knights broadcast the other day. And did you love it? Was it fun? Was it because this is the first time you've done color, right?
That's right. So I got called on last week. So Shane Knighty's daughter got married last weekend. Shane, who I think is the best color commentator there is. So all the guys that usually do the Silver Knights broadcast, Darren Elliott, Gary Lawless, Derek England, and our old friend Mallard, because I don't think Shane ever does it, or Dave Gosher, play-by-play. I don't think they come in and do it. With Brian McCormick, so I got asked to do that out of the blue, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So
absolutely, that's not something you don't say no to.
Oh, no, I was like, oh, I'm busy. No. So Friday night, they played the Iowa Wild. So I went down and watched because I hadn't seen Iowa play. And I knew quite a few of the Silver Knights. So I wrote down a bunch of stuff and then I went and researched as much as I could on both teams the next day.
So good.
Yeah. So good. And when I say research, I'm like hockey DB. And then Brian McCormick, who's going to be in the NHL one day, BMAC, great guy, took great care of me. He sent me all the stuff along with Justin from the Silver Knights. And so I had all the stuff on the Wild players and I had all the stuff on the Silver Knights. So I just kind of went over it. I tried to write a bunch of stuff down, like just stuff that might work during a game. Like you would not believe, Lord Bag, how many of these kids between these two teams had played for their World Junior team.
Quite a bit, I guarantee.
Yeah, a lot. And then, so the Wild aren't having a good, Iowa Wild aren't having a good season, but they got this first round, Wallstedt is his name, goalie, and he played for Sweden in 22 and 23. And so 21 and 22. So this is his second season in the AHL. And the first night, Henderson beat him 8-1. So there wasn't a lot that I could gain from that. But the second night, Iowa was much better. And so it was a lot of fun, a lot of respect for Panger and Shane, Keith Jones, who used to be phenomenal at it, Brian Boucher, trying to think Ray Ferraro, trying to give my props, Craig Simpson, to these guys that people would see on TV all the time. Jimmy Fox, right?
Yeah.
Give me a Jimmy Fox.
Jeff went down to the game and he had a good time.
Jimmy Fox is awesome in LA.
That's Jimmy. You got the puck in the corner, and that's the way you get it out to the defense.
And
I haven't done it in a while.
Yeah, you gotta come up. You used to go
because Jeff grew up playing hockey, therefore he still does.
So yeah, and they got Nick Nixon down there doing the play-by-play. I love Nick. Been there since Busky in LA. But anyways, a lot of respect for these guys that do the color commentating.
It's about trying to get a point, trying to get something in while not covering over the play-by-play, right?
Well,
you just kind of cover with information and maybe a little bit of funny, keep the dead air so your buddy, your play-by-play guy can regroup is what's going on.
Right. And so I couldn't tell, like I was all over the road in the first period, right? And when they came to us, before the game, like they did a 30-second to a minute shot of us talking the game before the game, like blah 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 blah. I'm like, so
it's my first game, and I'm terrified.
Like I had kind of what I wanted to say, but I had so much stuff going through my mind that I was like, okay, just say this. And then when you go to talk in the game, you want to explain like what's going on. Like I'll give you an example. Dmitry Miramanov is this player with the Knights. He was unbelievable with the Golden Knights last year, got injured. He just came back in a rehab stint. So I know a little bit about him. So just say you're trying to point out little nuances of the game that he does really well. So you're trying to find a place when he's on the ice to intersect or introduce it, but that might not happen. So now I'm sitting there trying to figure out, okay, is Brian taking a breath? Is Brian quiet because he wants me to jump in? Like what in the hell is like, where are we? And so in the first period, I was laughing. I was all over the road. And it was funny because Pokey, my old friend Pokey Reddick, Poke sends me a text, goes, "Hey, Sharps, keep it up." So I was like, well, Poke, if Poke was, kind of giving me a little pat in the back, I felt pretty good about it. But, and then awesome. Sherry, who, another one name drop, Sherry Headsmith, who runs Learn to Play for the Golden Knights and that. Sherry was nice enough to reach out to me too. So that was kind of cool. But really, the thing you're trying to do is give information, not be boring, and not have a way to end a story. And as you know from listening to this podcast, you and I sometimes we have trouble trying to. I kind of felt like we're trying to end a show.
we have it's all about trying to have an ending for the point that you start with. Otherwise, you got to be able to squeeze that ending in. So you want to be able to tell them information.
Well,
he's there. Why is he there? Why has he been gone? Yeah. Information, and back to you. And you got to fill in until he starts up. You don't want to just like end early and then there's 10 seconds of space because you've already ended early.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah. So
he's like, okay, Sharps, take this. And I'll give you an example of 3 players that people might or might not know of. This young kid named Jet Jones, Jakub Demek, and another kid named Wedman, Wedman. So these guys are right now the 4th line for the Henderson Silver Knights. And on Friday night, they were amazing. But you might not know anything about these guys. So Jet Jones scored his first goal in the American League. He just started playing up there. Undrafted free agent from Olds, Alberta. Jakub Demek is, I believe, a Slovak. Played for their World Junior team, 20-year-old, 6'4", lots of range. And then Wedman is a kid that played in the Western League as well. It scored in the Western League and has also scored in the ECHL, and he's 6'4". But, and he was in Florida system. So you kind of get to watch these guys a little bit, but then you're pulling for everybody out there. Like, obviously I'm a supporter of the Golden Knights and the Silver Knights. I've got lots of friends and people and we live here, but I'm also looking, I like to see the kids on the Wild play well too and do good things because we've been in the American League before. I know what that's like. And I'll give you an example. There's a kid named Shaw that plays for the Wild. He just is coming back from his 4th ACL. Okay, 4th knee injury. He played 59 games for the Wild last year, and he's just come back. And he was hanging in the weeds, picked off a pass, went down, scored a short-handed goal to kind of bury the Silver Knights the other night. But that's an unbelievable story. So people are sitting out there and they've had some kind of injury or they've had something bad happen to them. And this guy's just gone back to the well and said, well, we're going to do it again. We're going to do it again. And don't be surprised if it isn't before long. You see this guy back in the Minnesota Wild uniform and just think what he's overcome. So there's great stories.
That's what's great about the AHL and the minor leagues is you're seeing people that are chasing a dream, whether they're on the downhill of the dream or the uphill of the dream. It's close to the NHL. Like the talent is amazing. You go see these games, you get to see guys that, some guys don't play in the NHL, but it's pretty amazing. So yeah, go check out an AHL game. Yeah, I love it. I love that congratulations. We're all proud of you. Everybody's talking about you. Everybody's giving you a good time. Anyways.
Yeah. Hey, there's a real buzz in the air about
There's a real buzz. That's
everybody's really, they don't know what you're doing, but they're really proud of you.
But at the same time, I'm proud of you. I think it's awesome. I love that you kept it a secret, you son of a.
Well, I mean, you know what? I texted one person. I texted Jimmy Dwyer.
Your mom.
Jimmy Dwyer. Oh, no, okay. I guess I told mom, but I texted Jimmy because when I first came to Vegas, Jim Dwyer And
You
old
were.
Vinny, our old friend Vin DeFrisco, Jim's always been a huge supporter. So I texted Jim. I go, because Jim goes to bed early. Like we always have a joke that Jim, when the street lights come on, that's when Jim goes to bed. So I was like, I better text him before the street lights come on.
When the street lights come on, he's already been in bed for half an hour.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, Jim, you might want to tune in tonight. Your favorite on-air TV personality is doing the Silver Knights game, and so
Speaking of Vin, I'm about to blow it, but I'm also going to bring it up. So I'm in Indianapolis this weekend. He had some friends that he grew up with that live in Indianapolis. Do you know who I'm talking about?
mhm.
They've been to dinner at your house many times. I haven't seen them probably a couple years, 3 years before Vin passed, but they came out to the show just to say, hey, we just wanted to say hi. But they also wanted me to let you know how great you took care of them. You and Michelle took care of them, and they were just so thankful for it. And I was just like, wow, Vin's friends are the best. Vin would never thank anybody, but his friends.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But it was so nice. Like they came to see me, but they wanted to bring it up that they absolutely adore you and Michelle. So yeah, Vin taught. How did he help you with flying?
Yeah, so Vinny and people, we're getting it back to hockey. Vin worked on the pilot ratings, a major part with L. Secord. Enough said, right? Al
Right,
worked,
Al,
Rod Buskus, and
Rod
myself.
Buskus.
And so he worked with three guys that played professional hockey and then got into aviation. And each one of us would say that the road to get into it, Vin helped take all the bumps out of it, or a lot of them, and smoothed everything out. This guy, and I've said it before, but he was the Barishnikov of aviation. And so but he was a huge hockey fan. And quick hockey story about Vin: him and his buddy are walking down the street one day as a kid, and Stan Mikita lives just down the street, and they running over to, hey, Mr. Mikita, can we get an autograph? He goes, sure. But he was painting his garage. Says, but grab a paintbrush first and help me paint the garage. So there's Vin and his buddy going over for an autograph with Stan Mikita, and they end up painting his garage with him.
That's hilarious.
So yeah,
That's a great story.
so
And by Baryshnikov, you mean he used to wear tight pants and had a huge package.
he was very quick on his feet too. So
Uh,
last thing about Vin. So I'm walking last night, and this guy comes up. He goes, "Hey, are you Jeff Sharples?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm Vin's nephew."
oh no,
I'm like, I've worked with
no,
LVPD since '91, thanks to Jimmy
I
Dwyer.
didn't know
So
that.
the connections just go on and on. Because of course his wife was like, "Who's this? Who's this elderly gentleman?"
Who's this guy we got to get across the road?
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways,
Vin, the best part about having a friend is the being, just laughing at them. And we would laugh at Vin and care at him so much. So Vin had a bad heart and he wouldn't take care of his heart. But one time he couldn't pee for like an hour or something like that, and he went straight to the hospital, which which heart be damned, but if your crank's in trouble, get it fixed.
yeah,
He
he
was
was on
he
his
was
way down to California,
uh
and he panicked just past Jean, Nevada, which is about 35 minutes. So
I
anyway,
gotta pee.
boom, right around to St. Rose Emergency. Yep, that's Vin. So
He was,
it,
but it was good, and yeah. Bring up this is the sad thing that I'll say, but bring up your friends that have passed every so often. Tell a funny story about them, because yeah, that's what keeps them going is just by mentioning them every so often. Don't ignore them. Go do something. We always say, you know what we always say? Vin would love this.
yeah.
That's how we get back at Vin for not being at something. Vin would love this because he hated missing things.
Oh God! And quick story that brings some other people in. Do you remember? This is a Lord Bag story. Uh, so you came in to the House of Blues because they didn't have an opener for Dennis Miller.
Yeah,
Remember
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
So Lord Bag gets on the stage and just gets the place rocking. It's 1,500 people in there. Place is going crazy. Dennis Miller and Rob Lowe come and stand right beside me and Vin. Dennis Miller watches for about 30 seconds. He goes back to the green room.
Typical
So
comic.
yeah, there's me, then Vin, then Rob Lowe sitting there watching Ian having a laugh, and Vin's talking to Rob Lowe. I'll never forget
That's
that. So, he always fell out of the crap house into the penthouse, right?
always.
He could do. So we ended up in Dennis Miller's green room that night. Thanks, Dennis. Me, Vin,
He took off.
and Lord Bag.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it was packed with stuff, and we had a good old time. Yeah, it was a good time.
Yep.
Thanks, Dennis. What's
Yep.
funny? He's crazy Fox News now, so he wouldn't like to give to the poor, but he did that night. Okay,
Oh, jeez.
we got to
Yeah, we
get you
got
to
to do.
we got to get you to
Yeah.
hockey practice.
Yep.
There's two things I want to bring up before we go. Disappointed that Todd McClellan got fired.
Mm-hmm.
I think I yeah, but at the same time, I'm excited to see Hiller get a chance.
Yeah,
I'm
it's funny because we really like Todd, and he's had some tough luck. Like, he's a great coach. But don't forget, like, LA won 11 games or 12 games in a row on the road at one point earlier this year. So, but something happened, and Rob Blake made that big trade last year where he sent Velarde, Iafallo, Kapari, and Grands, the young defenseman, and possibly someone else for Dubois. And Dubois has not gone off to any. He's not been very good. So part of
not
this
only
is,
not
yeah,
only were they big, not only were they big shoes to fill, there were a lot of shoes to fill.
yeah. And so I think Todd, the team went for a skid, and I was talking to I forget who it was the other night. Maybe it was Mallard. Oh, it was Jamie Heward, our old friend Jamie Heward, with the Silver Knights, and he had a great point. He said, now the teams are there. There's so much pressure to win now that the development side of the game and trying to build your team is kind of almost taking a back seat a little bit to, hey, we know these kids are going to be good, but if we move them, we can get that player, and that player fits in here now and plugs the holes. And look at a guy like Dubois. Dubois got a little bit more experience than Velarde. Velarde was a first round pick. I'll follow. And Kapari is a young guy, and Grant's a young guy. So they moved those guys on to Winnipeg. The cool thing is Velarde as a young player has been a superstar there this year. And Iafallo is just, what he's always been, a real solid player. And Kupari, I think, will play somewhere in their third or fourth line. So the thing is Edmonton or Winnipeg's being able to take advantage of that situation, plug those guys in. But you can see what Rob Blake and Luc Robitaille were thinking is like, hey, we've got Doughty, we've got Kopitar, we've got all these guys that are, great players. Let's plug another guy, veteran, in, and let's go. And it worked for a lot of the season, but they've hit the skids here in the last month or so.
Are you ever shocked when they fire a coach after a win?
No,
Because
I mean, I think the Sharks are usually circling, like, I'll
people
give you an
people
example.
stop talking to you.
Yeah, 100%. As a player, right away. You can tell. But I'll
Right.
give you an example. Craig Berube. Um, I
Who
mean,
was great on TNT the other day.
oh yeah, he's like him and Talkett. I mean, those guys go way back. He's out of
Tight.
that mold. Um, and you start hearing rumors. Oh, Berube. All the guy did was win a Stanley Cup, and those teams have always played really hard. But for some reason, management thought it was time to move on. So he could have put together a winning streak of 2 or 3 games in a row, 4. And St. Louis has played better lately for sure. But I don't think it would have mattered. At some point, they would have found some other reason that they wanted to
Hmm.
make a change. And I think the time away will do him well. I think he'll come back and he'll either take a team late this year or take a team next year, and they'll be very successful again.
Good for him. Good
And
for
Todd
him.
McCollum too. Like,
Yeah, I
I
think Todd will
don't,
get another job as well.
and I think Todd might be more open to maybe popping in on a bench, as an associate coach. I don't see Craig Berube doing that, and maybe not Todd either. But if you could tap into the wealth that those guys bring, um, and then if you bring them into an organization as associate coach, if you have an interim guy, then you kind of have a guy that you can plug in if you decide that
Well,
the internal guy's not
one
for
of those
you.
coaches just did that. DJ Demare is become an assistant of some sort in Los Angeles. I read that the other day. He's
Hmm.
already, but I don't know if he went to like assistant general manager though.
Yeah, so DJ just got fired in Ottawa, and so yeah, I picked him up. I love that. I don't know what's going on in Ottawa, but the players loved him and they couldn't win. So now you're going to plug a guy in that universally is
University.
that's school district 88 right there. But
I'm in their
universally,
office.
people love him that have been around him. And LA, a little bit of a cloud over the organization right now because they've been losing. You bring a guy in like that, he helps support Hiller, the new coach, and away they go. So I think LA will fix it. They got Kempe, the kid they got from he came from the Wild, Fiala.
Yes.
They've got
Yes.
way too much.
They've got way too much there to be losing.
Yep.
So yeah, you
So
just look at it. Anyways, we got to get this wrapped
yeah,
up.
let's go.
Do you want to do shout outs? What do you want to do?
Yeah, sure. Let's do shout outs.
All right, do you want me to do mine?
Sure.
Mom was in hospital for 12 days, 10 days, 12 days. And I want to thank the people of Mills Memorial Hospital for taking care, ICU, the emergency, and also short-term care, whatever they call that. And you know what? This is how I'm looking forward to the new hospital being done. Still had to share rooms up there. She was in a room with four other people, so she's glad to be at a hospital and she's doing well. Nurse came in today, so healthcare up here. Just as your parents get older, you got to take care of them a little bit more. So shout out to everybody that took care of my parents, including my sister. I'm just the guy that flies in and drops a couple bucks and gets them a new bed that moves up and down. I got the old Tempur-Pedic.
It'd be one of those showing up in Long Beach before long, eh?
I can't wait. Yeah. Anyways, so big shout out to everybody that helped out my mom.
Yeah,
Over to you,
for
buddy.
sure.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, well, we're saying in the healthcare profession, we'll thank everybody at Kelowna General. And then Cottonwoods in Kelowna for my dad. Wally he's jailbreak this week. He's getting
Awesome.
out. He's getting home. So thanks to all them. And because you know what? It takes a special person to work in healthcare and even more special to be a nurse. So thank you to everybody. And I'm going to shout out one more. BMAC, Brian McCormick, Swiss Army knife, does everything for the Henderson Silver Knights. Great play-by-play announcer. Worked with me, held me close on Saturday night to make sure that I didn't throw up all over myself. And so it was a lot of fun. And
that would have been great. Just a video of you. Well,
and I was just happy I still fit in my suit. So that's good. But thanks to
that's
BMAC too.
awesome.
So love to all.